It's been a long time since I've been up here, a really long time. But thank you for having me, and I'm going to thank you in advance for giving me your attention. So, as I was saying to a couple of the members before I started, that yeah, you go through your whole week studying, and you think you're going to talk about one thing, and then you end up having a short conversation with a friend, and it changes everything that you were going to talk about. So I was in the book of Romans all week, and I'm just reading and hoping to be inspired. And there's plenty of things to be inspired by. But then I had a conversation yesterday when I was helping a friend move, and he was talking about, do you ever feel like you can't catch a break? I'm like, yeah, every day. It's every day for me. I can't catch a break. My kids are always fighting each other. No, but he was talking about something a little bit more serious. You ever feel like life is typically harder more often than it is not? And I said, well, I think that's a problem with our society today. I think, people don't embrace difficulty, and then that doesn't allow them to build character because they're always looking for a way out, the easy way. You know, I think too often in our society, the problem is that everything we do, or every perception that we have of how life is supposed to be, is solely based on how you feel and not with what's right. And I'm reminded of a story before we get into we're going to be in the book of James chapter 1, but I'm reminded of a story that I heard a long time ago, a few years ago, I should say. I don't know if anybody knows the name Dennis Prager, but I listened to Dennis a lot. And this was he was having a convention that he did a long time ago. And he was telling a story. And the story was when he was a young boy, he was in Jewish school, or whatever you call that, Hebrew school. And he was going to talk to his rabbi about something he didn't want to do. And so when he was 8 years old, he said, God bless him with chutzpah, right? And that's just, it doesn't mean you're mean. It just means you speak your mind, right? And so he goes and talks to his rabbi, and he says, Rabbi, so-and-so, I don't want to do what's called the mincha, which is the afternoon prayer in Hebrew school. And he goes, you should have seen my rabbi's face. He was like, what are you talking about? I don't feel like what? So his rabbi goes, oh, Mr. Prager doesn't want to do afternoon prayer. And so his rabbi goes, so what? And I thought about that thinking, like, that's kind of funny how we can get stuck on our emotions and our feelings about something. I don't want to do this and I don't want that. And we never really think about the fact that you ought to do what's right all the time, because it is, regardless of how you feel. Like, this is going to shock some of you, maybe, I think. But as I was listening to that story, I was reminded, like, it's kind of amazing, but God's primary concern for you is not with how you feel. It's with what you do. Right? So in the chapter 1 of James, I'm going to read it real quick, and I'm going to jump back to my story that I was having with my friend. Let's just start in verse 2. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. So we were talking about hardships in life, whether or not you like things, whether or not things feel like they should be done or not. Life has to be the way it is so you grow. You can't grow without hardships. Character is not built without difficulty. I know you've heard it. There's an old saying, right? That calm seas don't make good sailors. It has to be hard. And if you don't embrace that and put aside your feelings, then maybe you'll never grow. If you're always looking for a way out, maybe you'll never get to that place that God wants you to be. But in the book of James, what it's talking about here is those trials are necessary for you. The difficulty of life is necessary in order to grow. And so maybe instead of, trying to come up with an excuse to not do what you should do, maybe you just suck it up and do it anyway because you ought to. And maybe you'll learn things along the way. What's that whole saying is that, it's not the destination, it's the journey. I think that's what we really ought to be looking for when we ask ourselves, why are things hard? Well, maybe that's just the way it's supposed to be. But you pray for strength, you pray for wisdom, and God will give those things to you. So I was recently asked, what would you say, is the epitome of faith for you? What does it really mean? I said, faith is me trusting God to do the things that I can't do, and then doing the things that he says I should do. He'll do what I can, but he expects me to do what I can. And so it's short and sweet, but that's what I have for you this morning. And I'll hand it back over to Brother Frank.